production, I have to mill the grain, and the grain is composed with starch. And
Okay.
customized too, because for example, I am working in some years that I customized, and now I see a lot of this thing.
Okay, okay, that is great to know. I imagine that perhaps sometimes in the future you're also going to be using these words in English as well, right? What plans do you have for using English in your life, Annalise, and using these words perhaps in the future?
I think that it is really important for me, because I want to take a lot of courses, and some of them are in English. So there are specialized courses about beer, and this is important. These words, because you know that specialized English is more difficult because of the new words.
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. There are many words that are so like hard, and not many people know these words, right? Because you really have to be in that area to remember those words, to use those words. And of course, even if you are a native English speaker, right, you're not going to be able to know all the words, because some of those are only going to be like available, right, for the ones who are in a determined area. For example, you that are in, let's say, food engineering, right? You are more into this kind of, let's say, definitions, words, and all those things, which is great. So thank you for sharing those words, and list. Don't forget, please, to create a document. Okay, create a docs document, a file in your folder, and you're going to be filling in that folder with the words that you're going to be learning. Okay.
Okay, teacher.
That is great. Thank you very much. So here I have Viviana, Maria Elena, and Andrea. Again, right now we're going to be with Andrea's presentation, but I want to ask if you also have the three words that I've been asking for. Remember, this is something that we were supposed to do these last days, but of course, because of the presentations and so on, there was not time to do it. So I'm going to be asking. It doesn't matter if you didn't do it yet. I'm going to give you some time to that for so you can do it. Let's start with you, Viviana. Do you have some three new words that you learned by yourself?
Yes, teacher, I have three new words.
That is perfect. So the same, please, Viviana. You're going to share now the three words with us. You're only going to write the word in the chat, and you're going to read the definition for us. Okay?
Okay, teacher.
Great.
The first I have to write in the chat, right?
Yes, please.
The
Only the word.
first is, I think that is here, like that. I'm
Okay.
not sure about the writing, but I try to study the pronunciation is coherence.
Yes, that is correct. Coherence.
Coherence, that is when two things are like in, I don't I don't know how to explain, two things or more have something like common, or they have something that connects both things.
Okay, 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 that is good. And it's great that you explain this with your own words. Exactly. You can say, right, when there is sense or when something makes sense, right, between two different things, right? There has to be coherence in, for example, what someone says and what someone acts or how someone behaves, right? That's to be coherent. That's coherence as well. Very well. What is the next word, please, Viviana?
Is unattainable, that I learned because for my presentation yesterday.
Okay.
Is when you can capture something, and when something is not able to capture, to being captured, or yes, it's that the definition, I think.
Okay, something that that cannot be captured, you say, right? Something that
Yes,
cannot be comprehended. Okay, okay, yes, that's also something. Of course, it's related to the title of the oral presentation you had on Monday, as you said, right?
Yes, teacher. And
Okay.
the next is a scope.
Okay. What is a
A
scope?
scope is like that. The meaning I is really hard to understand. It's like an area, a big area of space, something like that.
Okay. Okay. So
And
continue,
that's
please.
all. No,
Okay. Okay.
that's all.
All right, all right. So you have those three new words. So you know what to do with that, please, Viviana. You have to gather all those words into one file that is going to be in the folder with your name. So in that folder, you must have the PowerPoint presentations that you've been preparing for Mondays, right? And also you're going to have like the words that you're going to be learning in a docs file. All right?
Okay, I am writing the two words that in the
The
chat.
other two words. Okay, that is great. Thank you very much. And don't forget, Viviana, for this, of course, it is better if you know the definition, and of course, it is better also if you read it with your own words. But remember that to share with the partners, you are able, all right, to do it and to read the definition from somewhere. And it's not that you need to memorize, but you can read the definition also for your partners in case you are
Okay.
forgetting. Okay?
Okay, teacher. Sorry, I
Oh,
think that I thought that I have to explain the word.
no, no, it's going to be harder because I know that sometimes it's hard to memorize definition of new words, right? So this time only sharing the words, reading the definition, and of course for you, then later on you can memorize those definitions if you're interested on learning those words. Okay?
Okay,
Now,
thank you, teacher.
you're very welcome, Viviana. Now, before continuing, we're going to work on the last presentation that we couldn't have on Monday because of the time. So, Andrea, I don't know if you're there to start with your presentation, please, and then we're going to continue with all the strategies, and the rest of them are going to be sharing the new words that they learned. Andrea.
Hi, Jose Luis.
Hello, Andrea. So, are you ready to start with the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen then. You can start sharing yours. And when you're ready, please let me know so that I can start the stopwatch. Remember that you also need to control the time and be sure that you are 10 minutes with this presentation.
How do I share the screen?
Okay, if you are from a computer, I think it's the same from any other device. Down below, you have like a tools dashboard. You say deactivate the audio, right, stop the video or start the video, security, participants,
I found
polls.
share screen. Yes.
Exactly. Next to chat, share the screen.
Okay, here it is.
There you go. It is loading. And okay, it's ready. I can see your screen now.
Yes, it's about Bolivia's endangered species.
Okay,
Here in Bolivia, it's managed. Well, I think that everywhere is managed the red books that talks about endangered species. The red books are scientific documents that reflect the state of conservation of the species. It can be about flora or fauna of a country according to the level of knowledge and research that exists at the time of publication. So these red books are important for the understanding the real situation of threats of the biodiversity in a country, also for helping to increase knowledge about biological diversity. There is some reason, here is some reasons why species vulnerability for the species vulnerability, the loss of habit, for example, that can be caused from construction, can be caused from agriculture. Other reason is invasive exotic species when you introduce exotic species to a place, it can be bad for native species. The other reason can be poaching or hunting wildlife, hunting wildlife. The other reason, climate change and contamination. For example, contamination for water animals like fish or other animals. And here are named some difference, like the classification. What does a vulnerable species means, an endangered species, or a threatened species? So a threatened species is like a group of species that have a trend that it can be hunting or poaching, like I mentioned, and this makes that the number of animals is being reduced. A vulnerable species means problems have intensified or continuous, or their population has decreased to a worrisome level. They are now vulnerable. Endangered species. Populations are in severe decline and are at risk for extinctions based on several factors, such as pollution, deforestation, and hunting. Critically endangered species. Critically endangered species are those that are almost extinct in the wild. Their numbers have become so few that they may have trouble breeding to keep the entire species viable without help from conservation. When help from conservationists is mentioned, is because it's hard for this. The population has decreased, so it's hard for example, female find a male for the reproduction. So that's why it mentioned that you need help from conservationists to keep this species. And finally, extinct when a species no longer exists. This is a file that shows an example from an animal that is mentioned in the Red Book. It is the Red Book of Vertebrate Wildlife in Bolivia. This is the Rhea pennata, that is his scientific name. This is an endangered species. And the Suri or Andean ostrich, this non-flying species can be reached at a height of 5 feet and weight up to 66 pounds. Its beak and head are gray, with its back and neck darker and the ends of the feathers white. It thrives in desert, saline soil, steppes, sparsely flooded areas, and high altitude wetlands, as well as in territories with little oxygen, extreme cold, and intense solar radiation. So I could see this species in Oruro, for example, that is a cold area and an intense solar radiation, as is mentioned here. It also can be seen in a natural reserve that is called Eduardo Avaroa, that is near El Salar de Uyuni. And this species, how it mentions here, it also, you can find this species, but another like this species is almost similar, but in the east side of the country. So that's it. That's all the presentation.
All right. So thank you very much, Andrea. I'm going to stop this one. So first of all, again, I'm always going to talk about the time at first. This is my feedback to your presentation, Andrea. So your presentation lasted 5 minutes and 39 seconds. All right, 5 minutes and 39 seconds. Remember, again, this time, this is not going to affect positively or negatively the presentation that you had. But the last presentation, yeah, that's going to be one of the parameters that is going to affect the score in a positive or in a negative way. So it would be great, again, for the rest of the presentations, let's say for next Monday and the following one, that we can reach the 10 minutes, right? Like limit. It's going to be great because remember that the last one is going to be 15 minutes. So it's going to be harder to speak a little bit more if we don't get to the 10 minutes presentation. That's the very first thing. The second thing, yeah, it was great that you had like a kind of introduction, great, the way you structured that. Perhaps what was missing, that this is not something I asked for. Again, this is not going to affect, but it's positive that you do it this way because in following presentations, again, it's also something that I'm going to evaluate. That is the structure of the presentation. It's great that you had an introduction, you were developing the idea, but perhaps the last part, right, it ended up so abruptly, right, so rapidly, and perhaps we could find like a better way of ending that presentation. That's the thing in regarding the time and regarding perhaps the structure. Now I'm going to, as I did with your partners, and I think you also were there, I'm copying and pasting some words. I think everything was well structured, but there were some perhaps little mistakes regarding the pronunciation. That's what I'm copying and pasting in the chat. So if you take a look at that, those are words that perhaps they were not like really badly pronounced, but there were some details that are better to improve. So at first, please, Andrea, I would like you to read all those words just by yourself. Can you read the words in the chat, please?
Okay. Biological species, agriculture, vulnerable, vulnerable, it's, it is being reduced, populations, threatened, as it mentioned or as it was mentioned.
All right, thank you very much. Again, the first word, yeah, this time I think it was better pronounced, right? I think you struggled when you were working on the presentation, but it is great, right? Biological, that's correct. The second one, a little bit more stress, let's say in terms of pronunciation in that C, like a species, right? It's not like
Okay.
SH, but it's going to be like sh. Yes, exactly, species. The other one, a little bit again of a stress and changing in the pronunciation in the CU. That is going to be like ka. It's going to be like agriculture, culture. All right, that's going to be the only difference. Exactly, agriculture. Then the next one is more related again to stress. That is going to be mostly in the first part, like vulnerable. All right, vulnerable. So the very first part is more like stressed. Exactly, vulnerable. The next one is that when you said that phrase, the D was not noticeable. You said it like it is being reduced, right? But it was like that, reduce. So you didn't put the emphasis you need in the D. So if you don't mention that D, it's going to be like incorrect. In this last time that you read it, it was better, right? It was being reduced. So that has to be like with more emphasis as you did it the last time you read it. The population is the same like in agriculture, just that that U is like EU this time, right? Like populations, just that, all right, populations. The next one is related to the TH, a little bit more like softer, like threat, right? Threatened, threatened, exactly. Instead of threatened, because that's going to be different, it has to be threatened. And the next part, you said as it mentioned, but if you say as it mentioned, it's going to be like active. It's like the book mentioned that actively, but the idea here is that it was mentioned. It was an idea that you mentioned, right? So it's better if it's passive, as it was mentioned before. All right? Those are the only things. Again, the only thing, please, and the thing that we need to work, Andrea, perhaps is just the time. For the next presentation, let's try to make this 10-minute presentation, and I think that's going to be way better. Okay?
Okay, Jose Luis, thank you.
No, you're welcome. Thank you. And we're going to finish again with this. All right, so all the presentations are done. We're going to go now, please, with the nail part of the course. Andrea, tomorrow, as I did with your partners, I'm going to give you all the details of the scores that you got in each strategy. I'm going to say how much you got for paraphrasing, for no Spanish, for synonyms, and the extra points that you earn for fluency and pronunciation again. All right?
Okay.
Great, perfect. Now let's begin. I'm sharing my screen again. And remember that this is the second part. Actually, you have to pay attention to these things because most of these parameters are going to be applied to evaluate your second presentation on Monday. We were working on this at the beginning with Annelise and Viviana. Annelise and Viviana shared the 3 new words that they learned, right? And this is something that all of you need to do, all right? So the ones who are here, if you didn't get any of those 3 new words, Andrea, Maria Elena, and Valentina, when we're going to work on today's activity, you're going to have like that time to look for those 3 words. Remember that every day, I couldn't do it before, you have to tell everybody in the class 3 new words that you learned. And remember, you don't need to memorize the definitions. If you can do it, that's great. But if you perhaps can't do it, you can read the definitions, all right? You can have something open and read the definitions for me and for your partners. And when you do it, you're going to save that information in a folder that it has to be in the folder with your name. All right, it has to be saved in that folder. So we know this. We have read this with you before. Expand your vocabulary. That's why I'm asking you this. So I'm going to be paying attention when you're going to read how you're going to be using new words. Okay, that's going to be part of the evaluation for Monday. And I'm going to notice also if you're reading that information or if you're using that information. That's why, please, also, this is going to be a must for Monday's presentation. Most of you did it, but you have to use the camera. All right, you're going to turn on the camera. With the camera and with the way you read, of course, it's going to be like noticeable if you're reading something or if you are perhaps paraphrasing something and improvising something. In this case, okay, most of the cases, most people don't want to improvise because, of course, it's not prepared and so on and so forth. But in this class, okay, the more you improvise over the structure you have, of course. With improvising, I'm not saying that it's going to be chaotic. I'm saying that you're going to be adding your ideas, a lot of ideas. So you have your structure and you have a little pause in which you can improvise and say your words, say your things. So in that brief moment, please, all of you, need to try to apply all these words that you are learning, all right? New words. I'm going to see. It doesn't matter if it's 1, 2 new words, but if I can see that you are improvising and paraphrasing using new words, that's going to be like extra points for this section, okay? Again, we read that. This is pronunciation. Again, believe me or not, I know more or less what are the difficulties that you have with certain words when I'm making the corrections, right, I can notice that some of you have some problems with the specific parts in the pronunciation, how you use the S, how you use the T, how you forget about the ED at the end, and you are speaking like in past, but you are pronouncing verbs as if they were in present, right? So those little details are going to be evaluated, and I'm going to be paying attention to that, okay? So again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm going to see how you're improving the pronunciation in those mistakes that I've listened to in the first presentation that you had. All right, that's another thing. We also read that. This is the next point, and this is something very complex. But again, the natural flow of English. This is perhaps the hardest part, but it's going to be great that you can do it. And I think most of you do this very well, but you can improve even more. What are the contractions? Remember, in writing, we were avoiding contractions, but in speaking and listening, we are going to use contractions. I want you to be fluent. I want you to use must contractions. I want you to link the words, right? I want you to feel more confident about the things you say, about the things you want to express, to feel that you are really into the language. Again, of course, you can stop using contractions if you want to put emphasis in an idea, right? And you can say, you cannot do that. That's also stress. That's also part of the rhythm. But most of the time, it would be great that you link the words, that you contract the words, and know how to use the stress and the rhythm, right? That's the last part that we were working on. If you remember, this is what we were doing before going to the presentations. Now, this is something that we're going to do now. And please, again, you may need to use your cell phone or other devices. Please be ready for the classes. It's better if you can be in your laptop or a computer because you're going to need many times to listen to audios, to watch some videos as we're going to do now. Okay, this is the fourth parameter that is going to help improve your speaking. And we're going to start reading this, please. So, Annelise, please read the first part and the first point of speech shadowing.
Okay, in a nutshell, this technique is about imitation. You listen to how a native speaker says something and try to copy it. Pick your favorite video with subtitles. Make sure that it is something you enjoy watching because you will.
Okay, great. Until that part, thank you very much, Annelise. So let's analyze everything. First, I think all the words that are here are very easy. But what is a nutshell? How can you define, or write all of you, Viviana, Andrea, Maria Elena, what is a nutshell? How can you use this word in other words, in a nutshell? Does anybody know any kind of synonym related to in a nutshell? All right, I'm going to start seeing what's your perspective or your idea of this word. Valentina, I don't know if you're there. What comes to your mind when you listen to this phrase, in a nutshell?
That you want to say something in an easy way.
Okay, okay, that's a really accurate way of saying that. Saying something in an easy way. We're getting closer. It's not the specific right synonym, but it's great. What about you, Maria Elena? What is in a nutshell for you?
Teacher, it can be like if you want to say something, but you just use like a one word.
One more time. You just
It's
use
like a
one more.
like. Sorry, you can hear me?
Right now, yes, I can. I couldn't listen the last part, Maria Elena.
Okay. I don't know if I'm right, but it can be something like when you want to say something, but you use like a one word. It's like that word is going to make a summary of the phrase that you want to say, something like this. I don't know.
Okay, okay, okay. Yes, yes, we are getting closer and closer to the meaning. Thank you very much, Maria Elena. Yes, it helps a lot. An easy way and a summary of something. Let's add more ideas, please. What about you, Viviana? What do you think of in a nutshell? You can also try saying some synonyms, but it's great that you tried to explain this in your own words.
No, teacher, I didn't know. I think that shell, it's like something that is in the sea, but I don't know if it's related with that or not.
Yeah, in a certain way, the metaphor, it's going to be related to that. All right, but it has a very specific meaning, Viviana. Do you have any
Ah,
idea what?
okay, like echo,
One more time.
echo. It's right. Echos,
The echoes. Okay, well, what do you mean by?
echoes.
What do you mean by echoes?
That you repeat the echos, repeat what you said, so you have to do that.
Okay, okay. Again, all of you actually are giving details that are related to the nutshell. Yes, that's it, Viviana. That's something that adds, and it's related to the meaning, and it's related to the synonyms that it has. And lastly, please, Andrea, because Annalise read this. So, Andrea, what do you think of in a nutshell? Do you have any ideas of any synonyms or any explanation for this phrase?
Eh, like is something little, like compact.
Okay, yes, yes, that is correct, exactly. Now, with all those ideas, because actually none of you gave like a bad answer, briefly, you can say that word. Instead of saying briefly, or in short, or in summary, you can say in a nutshell. Nutshell is something that is going to compress, is going to reduce, is going to take only the important aspects of something and it's going to be conveyed to the other person. All right. In a nutshell, it's like a summary, of course, taking only the most important parts and the most important ideas of something, and it's like concluding that this is the most important thing. So, in a nutshell, they are saying that in brief, yes, in short, all right, in very few words, speech shadowing is a technique that is about imitation. That is the nutshell of that. It's related to what you were mentioning, Viviana. So it's something that is compressed in a little thing, okay, because it only contains very important information. Okay, you can use then instead of briefly, instead of even in conclusion, instead of in summary, as you were mentioning. All right. And of course, when you do this and when you want to give the important information, as Valentina mentioned, you have to use easy words to make the reader understand what you want to say in a nutshell. Okay, by knowing that, so this is about imitation. And believe me, most people are afraid of doing this and they believe that this is like ridiculous, but it's going to help you a lot. If you are good at imitating people, okay, you can try doing this. And I imagine that some of you did it before. You watch some news or you watch your favorite series and you repeat and imitate one person speaking English with a very particular accent. And that's going to help you a lot. All right, that's going to help you a lot knowing how to pronounce certain words. So this is the first, and please be thinking because you're going to do this now. Think of a video that you can look on YouTube with subtitles, all right, with captions if you want. You can look for Friends if you want to watch a series. You can look for some news. All right, be thinking because you're going to look for this when I finish or when we finish reading this part. Let's go with the second point, please. Now, Maria Elena, let's read the second point of speech shadowing.
Okay, teacher. Listen to it many times. Listen to the video once and read the subtitles to get a good grasp of the general content and flow. While you're playing it again, complete the next step.
Perfect. So this time, of course, we're not going to have the chance of listening to this many, many times, but it's going to be enough with, I don't know, let's say listening to it twice or three times at most, because you're not going to repeat a very big part of the video. You're only going to repeat, let's say, like two sentences maximum. All right. And again, you're going to do this now. Think of something that you would like to imitate. Okay. It could be a part of a series again. You are going to listen to it sometimes and you're going to repeat it the exact same way that the actor or the performer is doing it. Okay. And let's go to the next part. That is the last one. I already mentioned this, but this is the thing that it says here. And Viviana, let's read the last part, please.
Okay, teacher. Imitate the narrator. Sorry.
Narrator.
Imitate
Good.
the narrator sentences by sentence. Play, listen, pause, speak, record, optional. Copy the speech pattern as best as you can. If you choose to record your practice, you can compare yours and the original. Or else, just listen to your own sound and be critical of the difference or similarity. Repeat this step until the end of the video.
Okay, thank you very much. So you know what more or less we're going to be doing now, okay, with this part. Let's try to do this, of course, not quickly, but let's try to go now, okay, all of you, go to YouTube, look for a segment, okay, a very short segment of anything you want to imitate. You can look, for example, BBC, CNN, and just imitate a certain part of some news. Okay, you can look for Friends, you can look for Game of Thrones, I don't know. And of course, you always have some segments on YouTube, and most of them, all right, have subtitles. Try to look something with subtitles, and you can write that on YouTube. But please do it now, all right? It doesn't have to be long because you're only going to speak like 10 seconds, maximum 20 seconds, all right? Maximum it is going to be 20 seconds because from the video you're going to choose a very small part. Again, two sentences, all right? Two sentences. You're going to listen to it and you are going to imitate. And you are going to, of course, record yourself. Remember that we still have some recordings to listen to. We're going to do it now. Okay, I didn't forget about that. We're going to listen to the recordings that we couldn't listen the last time, and we're going to do that first. But let's work on this. I don't know if you have any questions. Again, what you have to do is look for a video on YouTube now. It has to be about anything you want, a segment of a series or a movie or some news, etc., etc. Try to choose and select one or two sentences that a person or one person is saying there, and listen to it at least twice or three times so that you more or less know if the person is angry, you have to show that anger. Okay? If the person is happy, you have to show that happiness. But I want you to imitate the accents, I want you to imitate the emotion and everything that is conveyed on that video. And when you are ready, you're going to record yourselves saying that. Again, it's not going to be long. 20 seconds could be perhaps 30 as maximum. Any questions before starting, please let me know. No questions? Okay. So I'm going to start taking into account the time. So let's have like, look, it's like 6:45, let's say. We have until 6:50 to find a video. All right. You have until 6:55 to listen to that part of the video that you're going to read and imitate. And you have until 7, all right, you have until 7 o'clock to send the recordings to the group again, to the WhatsApp group. Then after that, we're going to first listen to the previous recordings that you sent and then to the new ones. Okay, so please, let's work until 7 o'clock, and at 7 o'clock, we're going to start working together. Do it, please.
Teacher, we have to send one record, really?
Yes, that is correct, Annelise. Only one recording to the WhatsApp group that has to be from 20 to 30 seconds maximum, imitating one thing that you saw and watched on a video.
Okay, thank you.
Great, you're welcome.
Teacher, are you
Yes, tell me,
there?
Maria Elena. Hello, Maria Elena, tell me.
It can be something about the British. I don't know. I don't know
Yes,
what
yes,
should be.
any kind of accent. It can be American, English, British, Australian accent. It doesn't matter. It can be any show from anywhere. It can be any series from anywhere, any movie. Just a little
Uh-huh.
part, and you have to select only one little section in which a person is speaking and saying
Uh-huh.
like two sentences, two ideas, and you
Okay.
have to listen to that and imitate that.
Okay, and then we have to record.
Exactly, and you have to send it to the group as we did it before
Okay.
with the previous
Okay.
exercise.
Okay, teacher.
Okay, great.
Teacher, we have to imitate the scene. I think your microphone is turned off, teacher.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, you have to do it. You have to imitate the voice, right? The accent, the pronunciation, and the way the person is saying that. Okay. Again, if you are, for example, choosing a series, or all right, and the series is the person is really angry and is saying something, I don't know, even something bad to other person, you have to imitate that. You have to say the exact same words. That's why it's better if you choose a video that has some captions. You can write the captions or the subtitles in a document that you have, and you have to listen to the scene, to the video segment a couple of times, and you have to imitate, all right, that again in terms of the voice, the accent, the pronunciation, the emotion of the voice, and everything you can do to be very similar to the person. All right.
Okay, thank you, teacher.
Okay, you're welcome, Valentina. Again, please, all of you, you have until 7, because at 7 we're going to start sharing the previous recordings, and then we're going to go to these ones. Please. So if you're having also some problems finding something, in the chat you have a link, and in that link you have like many scenes from the series Friends, and you can go to any second and choose a little part, right? Memorize that part, write down the subtitles, the captions, and imitate. Okay, so I think most of you will have sent the recording, right? Or you're doing it right now.
Teacher, I'm still doing. Please give me 5 minutes.
Okay, don't worry. Try to silence this. I'm going to be speaking because, or if you're going to record, try to be careful. I'm going to be like saying some things, and perhaps I'm going to interrupt your recording.
Yeah,
Try to be
exactly. I have to leave the meeting for that because I'm with my phone.
okay. Okay, don't worry, Maria Elena. Do it, please.
Okay, teacher.
Great. So with the rest of you, all right, you did it. And I don't know if you remember this. I think not all of you were in the last class, but the ones who were, you know that we were working paraphrasing some other ideas because I gave you like a lecture to listen to, and you had to say that in your own words, make like a little summary, right? Now I'm going to be asking to the ones that I believe that were here, and not tell me okay everything that was in the lecture, but tell me very briefly what it was about. So, Viviana, what do you remember of the last lecture that we did on Monday, or it would be sorry on Friday?
Teacher, I remember that was about American literature.
Okay, okay,
A writer. This
okay,
writer had an adventurous life. He worked on a boat. I remember was fan of reading, so he studied on this way many writers, and finally became one. Uh,
okay,
he supports socialism and support women rights, but he had an contradictorious life because he was like in his house he was like dominating the woman. He dominated the woman of his house. Finally he died because he gets sick at the age of 40s, I think, but he first didn't succeed, and
succeed.
then
Uh-huh.
succeed, and then with the others, with other writings and books, he get an international recognition. That's
Okay, thank
what
you
I
very much, Viviana.
remember.
Okay, no, and that's great. Actually, you gave us lots of details. Now, look, we're going to listen. I'm going to be playing one after another, the things that you recorded, okay? And it's related to that lecture. Remember, after doing this, please, we're going to have a little discussion on this topic. So if you don't remember very well, try to listen to what I'm going to play for you, and we're going to again have a brief discussion on this before going to this, well, with today's recordings. Okay, we're going to start with Andrea's recording, which was the first one. Please, let's pay attention to this. The lecture talks about literature and a writer, specifically a writer, Jack London. He was born in San Francisco and moved with his parents. His father was a veteran, and when he was a child, he moved around a lot until his family established in Oakland, where he has a lot of jobs. Even he was a socialist candidate. Then he became a writer to escape from working in a factory, like a factory worker, and write around 50 histories, novels, short stories, and others. The book that gave him fame was The Call of the Wild. Also, he has some books where he talks about criticisms of capitalism, poverty, and alcohol. They say that
there was some contradictory things that he do, like defend socialism and women rights, but in his house he was like the head of the family because he was a man. Then he do some agriculture, and finally he dies at the age of 40 because of a kidney disease.
All right, that's the first one, right? Again, try to be remembering those things. We're going to be talking about certain things about that lecture. This is Valentina's one.
It's in an American literature class. In the class, I was talking about the life of the writer Jack London. He born in San Francisco and his family moved to Oakland. He worked in different jobs in a very young age, and Jack were a socialist candidate but was unsuccessful. All the adventures that he has provide him material to write. At the beginning, his books didn't have success, but eventually he has international renown with histories, novels, and essays. And he talks about the many adventures that he has, and he used his fame to support the socialists, to support women, and to prevent the alcoholism. But people see his support were considered inconsistent. And London gets sick and he died at the age of 40.
All right, that's the next one.
The part of lecture.
All right, this is an analysis. I think it's divided in two parts.
It's a part of lecture in American literature class. The professor is talking about the writer Jack London and discuss about the life of the writer. London was born in San Francisco, 1876. The family moved a lot of them when he was young. He joined an army employed worker. The adventurous life provides him.
All right. Again, and this is the second part.
Well, material with very little literature. And he journeyed across the Pacific. In this trip, provide him inspiration about Polynesian culture. And London became one of the best known figures of his time.
All right, and the last one that we're going to play is Jaime's because we've listened to Viviana's also. I'm going to do it by myself, and this is the last one.
This is an American lecture class at the US. I'm going to try to summarize the lecture a little bit. It talks about the life of Jack London. Jack London was born in San Francisco in 1876, and he was dead for a kidney disease in 1916. He was a son of a retired Marine, I think. His family moved a lot, and then when they finally set up in Oakland, at the beginning he had a lot of many jobs, different random like fishing, the army or factories. He always followed the think of a socialist thinking. He eventually ran for a major candidate in a socialist party. He escaped for the reality of being a worker or a factory worker. So he started to learn a little bit about writers, and he became a writer. He had a lot of success. He was a really good writer, and he was very known in the international writing. He wrote 30 volumes between novels and essays, and the most famous was the Call and the War, I think. It was a hit. And finally, he was a little bit contradictory because he think in a socialist way. He defend all the socialist thinkings, but he was not practicing this very well because he was, I don't know, like criticism, defend the women's of the right of the women, but he was a bad man with women, if you want to say that. I think that's it.
Okay,
Well, material,
and we have
very little
right.
literature.
Sorry. Okay, so we have all those ideas. Now I'm going to start asking some questions, but also doing some brief corrections. Remember that you have to decide if you're going to mention all those things in present or in past. Sometimes you are mixing the tenses and the ideas are not that clear. And sometimes it tends to give the idea that this is still happening or this is something that is still going on, right? So sometimes it's better to tell something in the past tense, could be. But again, if you choose to do it in present that is valid, be careful of how you use present, past sometimes, and try to keep in one tense. All right? Because I was listening to some past ideas, and then out of the sudden you were saying he has or he gives, right?
Teacher,
Tell me, Maria Elena.
teacher, I'm so confused.
Oh, well,
So,
what happened? No, these are different recordings. These are the recordings
oh,
of Friday. Uh-huh.
okay. Because
Yes,
I
don't
don't know
worry.
if the audio that I send you, it's okay. I think
No,
it's
yeah, we didn't check those audios yet, Maria Elena. We're
okay.
checking the ones that we were working on Friday first.
Okay.
Okay, great. So again, be careful with that. You were mentioning some things in present, but out of the sudden you were mixing that with other tenses. Okay, just with that. Also, a couple of mistakes. If you want to talk about someone getting born, right? You have to say was born, not just born. You cannot say that a person born, right? You have to say that a person was born because it's like saying that someone else is do that. Actually, the mother gives birth to someone and you are born of that. Okay, so you have to use the verb to be over there. I was born, you were born, we were born. All right, that's really important. Again, because I listened to some of those and it's like he born. But there goes my first question, perhaps. Again, some other things. Remember, woman, women, right? Be careful because sometimes you say women's or woman's, but that's incorrect unless you are talking about possession. And you can say women's rights because you're using the S of possession. But the plural, it's already there, right? One, woman, two, women. Just again, be careful with those little details. Now, this is my first question, and it's going to be for you again. Viviana, where was this guy born?
In San Francisco.
Okay, okay. This is the next one. Valentina, what was this person's occupation? And again, I'm going to restate that question. Does he have like a real occupation or he was doing something before changing his like profession or what he did?
About the what?
In the listening, right? All the things that we were listening, Valentina, it was about Jack London, right? The person who did something, and we were listening to that. About that person, what was his occupation? Was he always that thing that he did, or what was he before doing that? Do you remember those things?
Uh, well, what I remember, teacher, is that I don't know.
Okay, all right.
Yes, he wants to be he wants to be in the politic.
Okay, he wants to be in politics. All right. Do you remember what's the tendency? Well, I mean, is he a capitalist?
Socialist.
Okay, very good. What else? Andrea, what about you? If you can expand that idea, what was this person's occupation or what did he want to do for living? What did he do, sorry, before that?
He had a lot of jobs.
Mhm.
And he had a lot of jobs and also was a candidate for for politics something.
Okay, yes, you can say he was a candidate for a political party, you can say.
Political
Okay,
party. Okay, he was, I think, a fisherman and other things, and finally he became a writer to avoid working in a fabric.
exactly, right, in a factory, right? In a factory.
Factory.
Exactly. Okay, very good. That's right. He had many other occupations, but at the end, he decided to do something, right, to change that lifestyle that is like a factory worker and decided to imitate certain things to become, right, a writer. And if you're telling this as a tale, it's better if you use past and you can say after he became, right, a writer. That is great. And what is the last thing that I'm going to ask any of you? If anybody answers, I'm going to choose one. What was the last part, and why is this lecture talking about something contradictory? What is that idea that is contradictory? Anybody? Let's try with you, please, Annelise. What is the contradiction in the last part of this lecture and about this person, Jack London?
Maybe that he was candidate of socialism, and then he is with another with another group.
Okay, okay. So you're saying that he supports like the ideals, right, of socialism, but maybe he had a different lifestyle, right? That wasn't like as a socialist would do. Okay, we're going to analyze that. And what do you say, Viviana, about this? Again, what was the contradiction in the last part of this lecture when we were talking about Jack London and the lifestyle he had?
He is that he supported the rights of the women, but he dominated the female part on his family. So
Okay.
he don't do what he predicts.
Okay, 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 that's great, right? Of what he predicts, exactly. Be careful again with that word. Remember, the right of the women, right? Instead of women's, women. Yes, that is correct. He was like doing something, like saying something, but he was doing like, not, let's not say perhaps the opposite, but he was doing something that was against those ideals, right? If you're defending some rights, of course you have to behave and you have to live according that saying. If you're doing the opposite, is like you are with this, I don't know, contradicting yourself, right? Now, this is a question that I'm going to ask all of you, and please try to answer according to your experience. Let's start with you, please, Andrea, about this idea of being of doing something that is opposite to what you say, to what you predict, right? Is this very common? For example, do you think here in Bolivia, are there many people who do things that who say things that they don't do? And how can you explain that? Do you have any examples, please, Andrea?
There is, I think, there is some people that go to church a lot or predict about a religion and do the opposite of what they predict.
Okay, okay. For example, what is one example that you can say? For example, you're mentioning, right, people who go to church. What is one behavior that you can see that is opposite to what they predict or what they say?
It's kind of dark, but when a priest damage a little girl, like a child, that.
Okay, yes, exactly, right? Because through religion, they're supposed to convey, right, the idea of love and all those things. But there are some people who use those things to, of course, do the opposite and harm, right, and damaged some people. And of course, we have bad news. Of course, it's always uncomfortable to talk about that, but we have some people related to religious purposes who are like children molesters, right? And that's something that is really, really negative. Now, what about you, Annelise? Do you have any examples of those kind of people here in Bolivia or that kind of behavior?
Mm, eh, yes, I think that yes, but I think that this behavior we can see in a lot of situations, maybe, but I don't know. Well, I think that it is really bad.
Okay. Do you have an example of someone, or it doesn't have to be really, really bad, right? Just something that you always say, but at the end you do the opposite. And it could be something very simple, for example, telling other people to be organized, right? But you in your bedroom, you in your own life, you are very chaotic and you don't do those things. Do you have an example similar to that, Annalise, of someone saying to do something to other people, but that person does the opposite in his or her private life?
Mm, I am thinking.
Okay.
I think these days that I am not doing exercise, but every day I tell my brother that he has to do exercise.
Okay. Okay. So you're telling something right to someone, for example, to do exercise, but you're not doing it yourself. You're saying that, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Annette. So again, I want to know your perspectives about these things just to practice. All right, just to practice. Try to say the things you want to say, to express yourself, because perhaps not all of you have the chance, right, of practicing English every time. So try to do it here. Now I'm going to ask something here. We are part of, let's say, a socialist country. Bolivia is a socialist country. But there are some people that say that these socialists, right, live as if they were not socialists. And I think we can relate that idea to what we were listening to in the lecture. And Valentina, I don't know what you can say about that, very briefly. Do you know of some people that are considered, okay, as socialists, but they live as if they were not socialists?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. What do you know about that, or what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, I think that, for example, here in Latin America, we can see the real socialism because in some people that works in the politics tends to uh, act in a different way that they say. For example, socialism in some countries in Europe works really well, better than in Bolivia, because here in Bolivia, people, not only in Bolivia, there are other countries in Latin America that are socialists, but for example, Venezuela, that they don't see um, the needs, I don't know, the necesidades,
Just it's okay, the needs or the necessities, but needs is okay. The
necessities
needs.
of the of people. They only see their own needs. That's why that is not a real socialism, right?
Okay, yes, that is correct. And what do you think that these kind of people, right? Very briefly, Valentina, what do you think that they are thinking? Because they are like enriching themselves, right? They are earning, let's say, some money, and some people they say that the leaders of some socialists, right, parties are very rich. Do you think that we have something similar in Bolivia, that thing that you're mentioning about Venezuela, Valentina, or if we had something similar?
Sorry, teacher, I couldn't understand
Yeah,
very good.
the last part, right? You're mentioning something about Venezuela. Do you think that we are living or that we lived something similar in Bolivia? Someone predicting, let's say, socialism, but living differently?
It's very difficult to be like Venezuela because Bolivia is a small country. Our economy is not so big than was Venezuela economy before the socialism. So we are not very far, but it's really difficult to be like that country. But if we follow with this president, maybe we have to see because it's only 1 month, right? But I'm not agree with socialist, communist. No, for me that's not a good um, politics.
Okay.
But we can see, for example, I don't know exactly, I forgot, but I knew it that some countries in Europe that are socialist has a really good economy because they follow the definition. Because if you read the definition of socialism, it's not so bad. But the problem is how Latin American countries will change that definitions in her own benefit.
Okay, okay, that's really interesting, Valentina. You're right. Sometimes, and we can see, right, if you read about socialism, communism, and all those things, those are ideals, right? Many people, of course, they follow that because it seems that that's the right thing to do, right? Everyone living a balanced life, right, with equality, with rights, and all those things. And you're right, there are socialist parties and socialist countries in Europe and in other parts of the world, and they are successful, right? And they succeed because of perhaps they are following right the things they need to follow, and they are not using that as part of the speech, as you were saying, maybe right, as in Latin America. They use that as part of the speech to seduce the masses, right? The people, the population, and after they gain their vote, right, they forget about that and they do whatever they want. That's something could happen. So again, thanks for participating. Now, we have some little time, and again, I would like you to do this. We have two following, and we're going to read these two now, because this is something that you have to do by yourselves. All right, all of you need to do this by yourselves. As we did today, on Friday, we're going to listen to the recordings you sent now, okay? But now let's read the points 5 and 6 that are some things that you have to apply in your everyday life. So, Maria Elena, please, this is the fifth parameter, the fifth, let's say, strategy to improve your speaking skills. Let's read everything, please. Let's read everything that we have in the fifth strategy.
Okay, teacher. Self-talk. Talk to yourself in English loudly. It can be anything from a suggestion like, shall we get a glass of water? Or a reminder, I need to do a lot of laundry today. Alternative, Alternatively, pick up a
Mhm.
book and read a couple of pages out loud. This exercise might slow down your reading, but it will speed up your speaking skill. You can also record yourself listening to the recording and watch out for any wrong pronunciation. If it is possible, ask for the feedback from a native speaker.
All right, thank you very much, Maria Elena, right? Of a native speaker. So this is something, please, that you should do. All right, try to talk for yourselves. This is self-talk. Believe me, this is very useful, but very few people do this. You have to ask yourself things in English. You have to start saying things, okay, in English instead of using Spanish, because this is the very first step of acquire the language. All right. If you want, again, and you want to record yourself saying something, you can do it. And if you want, again, this is important. I can be the one that can give you some feedback. So this is for the ones who want to improve even more. You can record yourselves sometimes, and if you want, you can show that to me, and I'm going to give you some feedback on that. All right, but let's practice that. And this is the last part to finish the class, the sixth strategy, think in English. This step is only going to be achieved if you follow the last step, the previous step, which is self-talk. Let's read this one, please. Annelise, let's read the sixth step.
Think in English. If you already think in English, it takes less time to produce or respond in everyday conversations. No translation needed. A good way to start thinking is to keep a diary where you express your daily thoughts in English. Does not have to be perfect. It is more about getting out thoughts in English with less and less effort.
Thank you very much. Right? So this is what you want to get. This is where you want to be, okay? What you want to reach. And again, this is only going to be achieved if you're really starting thinking in English only. Leave those Spanish thoughts right behind, and it's going to be the best thing you can do. No translation needed. Again, this is something that we're reading like this because you have to apply this by yourselves. You have to do this in your daily lives. The next class, after reading, listening to the recordings and discussing about that, we're going to go to the seventh strategy, which is retell a story. All right, that's something we're going to be working on Friday because it needs some extra time. But today we're going to finish with this strategy, with the recordings you sent and everything. Do you have any final questions or thoughts before finishing today's class? Please let me know. As always, you have the poll over there. If you have comments, let me know. If not, we're going to finish here, please.
Thank you, teacher. Bye.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye. Take care and see you in the conversation tomorrow.
Thank you, teacher.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye, Jose Luis.
Bye-bye, Andrea. Bye, all of you. And bye, Viviana.